Hey, I want to talk to you a little bit today about leadership. Not just leadership in itself, but most importantly, how to be the type of leader who leads other leaders. So many people they want to be in a position of leadership, and they either want the title because they think it'll bring a certain amount of respect, or they want the title because they feel like they'll have a better and greater influence with that title, and like they can do more with the title. The problem is that so many people, once they step into an area of leadership, find themselves being more stressed out than they thought they were going to be, having more trouble than they thought they were going to have, and ultimately not enjoying leadership the way they thought they would. There are a few different reasons for this. One of them sometimes is just the fact that we have trials, that we go through struggles, we have hard times. There aren't always ways around that. But one of the greatest challenges of being a leader is understanding that a good leader develops and leads other leaders. No person can take on these great tasks on their own. So in order to be a great leader, you need to be the type of leader who develops other leaders. There are a few things that we have to remember. We have to remember that we are responsible for cultivating a culture. We're responsible as leaders for setting a tone, cultivating a culture, creating an atmosphere. We have to remember that we can't do it all, that we're human beings. We live in a body like everyone else. We don't have all the right answers, and we can't do it all. We need help. We also have to realize that leading, it's not really about us. In the grand scheme of things, it's not really about us. Not only in ministry, but also in business, in corporations, in franchises. Very rarely is it all about us. So, first, let's talk about cultivating. As a leader, you want to cast vision. It's so important that you understand the direction that you want to go. For leaders in ministry, even people in business, it's important that you hear from God a direction. You want to be able to cast vision to people. Casting vision is important because people are more likely to follow when they know where they're going. And the great thing about casting vision is even if people don't know where they're going, often they'll follow someone who knows where they're going. Many cases, people are okay with not knowing the direction as long as they feel like they're following a person who does know the direction. Proverbs 29 says, where there's no vision, people perish. People perish where there's no vision. Habakkuk 2:2 says to write the vision down. We're talking about having vision, to write the vision down, to make it clear so that whoever grabs hold of it, so that a runner can grab hold of it and run with it. We have to cast vision as leaders. That's part of how we cultivate a culture. Also, it's important that we speak the language. By that I mean to know your demographic. We teach this to all of our student leaders, to know the demographic, know the people whom you're working with. Where do they come from? What's their background? Well, what are the day-to-day situations that you're facing? Well, when you develop your leaders, it's important that you not only speak their language, but you teach them to speak the language of the people that they're interacting with. Many times people won't follow or lead someone who they feel like doesn't understand them, who is not on the same planet as they are, or doesn't know where they're coming from. But when you speak the same language as someone else, you show that you're on their level, that you understand where they're coming from, and people love to follow a person whom they feel like understands them. As leaders, when we're cultivating, we want to set the example. It's very, very important that we set the example. Why would you ever ask anyone to do something that you yourself aren't capable of carrying out? I'm not saying that you have all the same giftings and talents. I'm not saying that just because someone's a great artist, that means that you're going to be a fantastic artist too. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a leader, it's important that we set the example for the culture and the atmospheres we want. In other words, you want people to be respectful, treat people with respect. You want people to honor other people, make sure that they see you honoring people. So when we create the culture, we cast vision, We speak the language and we set the example. We also have to remember that we can't do it all. One of the greatest challenges that leaders face is thinking that they can accomplish all the tasks that are set before them on their own, and it's just not possible. In the book of Exodus, Moses' father-in-law approaches him, and there are just people just lined up to talk to Moses. And his father-in-law, in essence, says to him, he says, this thing that you're doing is crazy. What makes you think that one man can take all of this on? Do you really think that you can do all this on your own? There's no way. We have to accept the fact that we need help. We need to recruit people. We need to be on the lookout for people who are gifted like we are and gifted differently than we are, and recruit them and put them in positions where they can thrive, where they can excel, and where they can achieve things that we would achieve, or even things that we can't achieve. Training is an important part. As leaders, it's important that we train people. When you're setting an example as a leader, when you're cultivating a culture and you begin to recruit people because you can't do it all, it's important that you train people. Train people to do what you want them to do. I've found in some of my experience that the best thing you can do is set simple, strict to the point directions. The more a person knows what they have to do to follow you, the more likely they are to follow you. And as a leader, you want to make it easy to follow you. Give someone step by step instructions. Do this first, do this next. Make it as easy as possible to carry out your wishes as the leader when you train people. And here's one that's really, really hard as a leader when you're recruiting, when you're training other people: letting go. Let go. It sounds good when you say it. It sounds like the right thing to do, but it is so hard to let go of something that you're passionate about. It's so hard to let go and trust someone else. But what I've found several times in my life so far is that when I have let go and trusted someone else, the results have more often been better than I ever expected. Many times people were so good at something that I let go, and they were actually better at it than I was. I know that sounds very, very arrogant, but they were better at it than I was, and I was so pleased that I could let go and that I could trust other people. We have to understand that as leaders. It's not all about us. We have to let go, trust other people. It's not about us. It's not about us. I can't say that enough. Your leadership, the things that you're doing, the ministry that you're involved in, the business, the way it's functioning, it doesn't always mean that it's a reflection of you. We, as leaders, we can't take that and just carry it on our shoulders, let it become our identity. It's not always a reflection of you, and it can't depend all on you. In order for you to be all the things that you have to be, you must train and develop other people, because this thing that you're doing, whether it's ministry, whether it's a business, whether it's a franchise or a corporation, it can't depend all on you. Because if you were to slip, if you were to fall, that would mean that all of it would fall with you. There have to be other strong people holding it up. It's not on your shoulders. Especially in ministry, we have to remember this, that it's not on our shoulders, that in fact, it's on the shoulders of God. The Lord spoke to me one time when I was having trouble making a decision, and I was really afraid to make the wrong decision. And I thought, what if I make this wrong decision and this bad thing happens and it just doesn't go as planned? And I remember the Lord told me, He said, do you really think that you're that big? Do you really think that you're so big that one of your decisions could stop everything that I have planned? And that just really helped me refocus on the fact that this whole thing is not on my shoulders. So as a leader, we want to be developing other leaders. We want to cultivate. We want to understand that we can't do it all. And we want to understand that it's not about us. There was a guy who left a church, and the ministry was doing well at the church that he was at. It was doing very, very well. And he left the church, and the entire thing just fell apart. The area that he was over just completely fell apart. And the guy came back to visit, saw that it had all fallen apart, and he thought, man, I must have really been doing a good job because this thing isn't making it without me. And he told someone else, it's not doing nearly as good as it was when I was in charge of it. That really says something about my leadership, doesn't it? And the person that was speaking with him said, yeah, it does say something about your leadership, but it's not something good. Because if you were a great leader, you would have trained people so well that they would have been able to go on without you. This was all depending on you, and now that you're gone, it's failing. But a great leader trains other leaders and develops other leaders to help them with tasks. So, be a great leader.